What's up guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at Metro 2033 Redux Edition on Steam on the ROG Ally. This is the Z1 Extreme Edition. We're going to be testing out 1080p, 900p, and 720p on the very high quality preset. We're not going to be using any super sampling. So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so here we are at 10 watts. I just wanted to show this. The FPS is a bit too low. You can see we're at about 19. Just want to walk through this area. We're going to walk through the same area on all of the tests just to get a pretty accurate FPS benchmark on here. So at 1080p, very high settings, it's really not a playable FPS. All right, here we are at 15 watts. You can see we're already at 40 FPS. We're going to start this counter. Now, when we come out here, it's a bit more demanding. So you'll see over here, it's dropping down quite a bit, but our frame time graph down here is extremely smooth, no stuttering, plays really well. All right, so just walking around here, it looks like we're getting on average about 37, maybe a little bit more, just depending on where we're looking. And now let's go ahead and switch over. Now here we are at 18 watts, and you can see it's made a bit of a difference just in this starting area. I think it went from about 41 to about 46, and now we're staying around 37 right here in this really intense area. You'll see this kind of goes up as we progress through here a little bit. I'm just going to walk around here. I don't want to get into the vehicle cutscene by walking up there. So just kind of look around for a minute. And not a major bump. It looks like we're only at about 41, maybe 42, depending on where we're looking. I'd be more comfortable saying 41 for the average, but it's still somewhat of a bump in FPS. Now here we are at 30 watts and we're above 50 FPS. So let's go ahead and start that counter, walk out of here, and this is feeling a lot more responsive already. Staying above 40 right here, listening to the same phrase over and over again, and we have quite a few more benchmarks. All right, so here at 30 watts, we got a really nice bump going from 18 to 30, and you can see we're averaging about 49, almost 50 FPS, depending on where we're looking. So very playable. I would actually want higher FPS playing this. So let's go ahead and knock the resolution down and see what we get at 900p and how much of a difference that makes. All right, so here we are setting it to 900p. And you can see here at 10 watts, even at 900p, it's not really playable. As soon as we walk out of here, it's probably going to dip slightly below 20. Actually might stay there. So right at 20. So here we are at 15 watts. This is 900p. Let's go ahead and run outside, and already at 15 watts, the FPS is quite a bit higher than what we were getting at 1080p, and it still looks really good. It's actually hard to even see the difference, especially right here. You can notice it, but it's really not much of a difference. And it looks like we're averaging about 50 FPS. It really kind of jumps depending on where we're looking. Sometimes it'll drop down a little lower, or it will jump a bit higher like we just saw, but around 51 FPS, that's pretty good. So here at 18 watts, you can see we've already hit the 60 FPS. It's going to go down a little bit, but let's go ahead and run around and just see what we wind up with for the average. It looks like we're getting an additional about 4 FPS here. So we're at a 55 instead of 51 FPS. Let's go ahead and bump this up to 30 watts. All right, we just hit 70 for a second. So we'll go ahead and run out and get that number as well. And this is probably where I would want to play it, in the 60 FPS plus range. And the FPS does jump a bit once we get fully out here. You can see now it's staying above 70 for the most part. Even though it'll dip down for a second, you'll see that will jump right back up. And it looks like we're averaging about 67 FPS at 30 watts, 900p. Now before we do anything else, let's go in here and just see what happens whenever we lower this down to, we'll do the high settings. Let's just see if that made much of a difference. And you can see it absolutely did. We are getting around 80, so that is an additional about 12 FPS or so, I would say, just by knocking the settings down. I do feel like I can see the difference though, just slightly in some of these textures. Still looks pretty good, and 85 FPS is definitely going to be an enjoyable experience. Now let's go ahead and knock this back to very high, and I just want to test out and see what kind of FPS we get at 720p. All right, here we are at 720p, 30 watts. This is very high instead of high, and you can see we're at 80 FPS. So let's go ahead and start that timer again. Run out here, Feels like a little bit blurrier, but on such a small screen, it doesn't matter. I probably would stick to 900p though, since we're still got a pretty good FPS. So it looks like over here, we are getting slightly above 80 FPS for that average, or right at 80 FPS, just depending. And that is a really great frame rate. So now let's see if we just lower the settings down real quick, what kind of difference that's going to make. So we'll go to video, and then we're just going to drop it down to high settings. There we go. Bring that FPS counter back, and now we're at 90. So that is pretty crazy. And if you're wanting a real high refresh rate, there we go. We're at 112 FPS, 720p on high settings on this. Since we have 120 FPS display, this would be right there at the max. You can see now we actually went past it at about 126. So yeah, that is very smooth. Looks amazing, really responsive. Anyway, that's it for testing out Metro. This game is on sale at the time of this video for just $3, so I figured I'd cover it in case anyone was interested. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Let's go. The other shit already